Welcome in. It is Brad with College SportsCast.
Man?
We are here. We are here after a long break to do our summer series. It is SEC Football Media Days, and this is now a part of Stadium Rant.
When you get to the point where you do the work consistently, you invest in yourself consistently, you make sacrifices consistently when everybody else is slacking off, when everybody's partying, when everybody's making excuses, you will dominate every single person you're up against, and your limits become non-existent.
Welcome in, guys. It's Brad with College Sportscast. If you are not a part of Stadium Rant and do not follow all of those shots of those shows, they are on Stadium Rant YouTube channel or Facebook or X for Stadium Rant as well. We are part of Stadium Rant and appreciate them, guys. And we will have a guest from Stadium Rant with us tomorrow night. Will be with us tomorrow night, so we're going to have at least one guest this week from Stadium Rant. John, we're here to discuss SEC football, man.
It's almost here.
It is talking season. It is officially started. It's talking season. And I'll be honest with you, I get excited for this every single year. This is our third year of doing our summer series for SEC Football Media Days. Welcome to day one. If you're with us, we appreciate you being with us tonight. And we will get started in just a second here, guys. If you're on Facebook with us, we appreciate you. You can send stars. You can also subscribe to our channel for just 99 cents on Facebook. And we appreciate that. It will give you your own subscribers page and chat. All right, John, to start with, for SEC Football Media Days, the commissioner himself always starts out SEC Football Media Days. They are in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame this week. That's a big deal for the SEC to be at the College Football Hall of Fame. They have a very nice setup down there and would love to be there. Hint, hint, one of these days would love to be there.
Yeah.
But one of these days, maybe we'll actually be live at SEC Football Media Days. But until then, we're going to enjoy talking season and talking things up for you guys. We're going to start, John, with SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. He always kind of gives us a State of the Union type address, the state of the SEC at SEC Football Media Days. And I always find it kind of interesting. He always has at least 2 or 3 points, I think, that are worth at least talking about. Of course, everybody's been talking expansion this, expansion that, but I thought it was kind of neat today that Greg Sankey said, look, if people don't agree with what we have, we're game to stay at 12.
Yeah.
It's already 5-7, and they're wanting to go to 5-11. The SEC, the Big Ten wants to guarantee all these spots. 4 for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten. And Greg was like, nah, if people don't agree with us, we run this sport basically. He said, if you don't agree with us, we're fine staying at 12.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole just college, the whole football expansion, college basketball expansion. I mean, let me bring out something real quick about the whole college basketball expansion.
This is a new show, Josh.
The whole college basketball expansion thing that everybody's talking about. The way it is ran now, Brad, I don't think you change it because you're going to have games like you had, 2 years ago, Virginia and Colorado State. You're going to have those type games. Rutgers, a team that don't barely make it into the tournament because they didn't have a great conference record. Why change something that is obviously working? Sort of like the football thing. You got the 12 teams. You got you get a first round game at home, and a few of them get a few buys. I think the top seeds get some buys, and they get to play a home game like Ohio State did last year.
Yep.
Why change something that is working?
And it was only 1 year of it. It's not like we have a full sample.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like we're going through 3 or 4 different times that we've done it. It happened 1 year, and it actually worked. And it brought out
well, I think.
The 2 best teams last year to me was Notre Dame and Ohio State. Now, I thought Texas was good at times, but Texas kind of struggled down the stretch a little bit. Notre Dame kind of came on at the end, but we all knew Ohio State was winning that last year. Ryan
you know what I think this whole expansion talk is about? Expansion for football, expansion for basketball. You know what I really think it's about? So we're in a different time now with the revenue share, and all these schools are going to be paying players with a salary cap and everything. And I believe that the reason why they're talking about this expansion is simply for revenue.
Yeah, money. For
TV revenue. The more that they can add to these tournaments, the more revenue they can create.
But see, Brad, what you're going – but see, what I was going at there was you're going to have, what they call it right before the tournament. It's the playing games. You got the 6
What's up, Clyde?
seeds. You got the 11 seeds playing one another, the 12 seeds playing one another. You're going to add, 3 or 4 more games to that? And you're going to basically put in teams that is more or less a participation trophy type thing. A team that, goes 8-12 in conference that don't really deserve to be in the tournament, and you're putting them in and putting them on TV and giving them a look.
People's going to watch them on TV, and they're going to generate a bunch of revenue. I think that's what they're shooting for.
Well, I mean, it's not going to be good for TV. I can tell you that, because a lot of people's not going to watch, especially the teams that are bad. We had that game a couple years ago, Virginia and Colorado State, that was a snooze fest that happened. I happened to turn it off halfway through the first half because nobody could score.
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, I know.
I mean, it was brutal. And you're setting that up to add more teams like that to the tournament? No. Just keep what you got.
Another hot topic, especially for the SEC, has whether they should go to 9 games or continue to play 8 SEC games. It seems like every other conference is like running their chops about the SEC playing 8 when everybody else seems to be going to 9. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put it to bed right here. I'm going to put it to bed. If you pay attention to this, I'm putting the whole issue to bed. You want to know how I'm doing that? Here you go, John. Go look at the preseason strength of schedule for 2025. The top 11 teams in strength of schedule for the upcoming season
SEC
are all SEC.
Yep.
Until you guys, and I'm talking to you, Big Ten,
yep,
Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, Big East, I don't care who you are, until you guys can even compare to the strength of schedule of the SEC, please shut the hell up. I am so tired of hearing this debate.
Yeah, it gets old, to be honest.
I mean, they're like, well, it's only fair that you have to play 9. Excuse me,
Okay.
but I think our strength of schedule is already well ahead of y'all's as is.
Here's where I draw the line with that is you put a team like Northwestern and a team, say, like Rutgers, these lower tier teams, you put them in the SEC, they're lucky if they win 3 games
a year. Ever.
And that's not mentioning the teams that have been historically bad, like Vanderbilt, Kentucky, which South Carolina has gotten better over the last 3 or 4 years.
I'm telling y'all right now, the top 11 teams for 2025 strength of schedule in college football all hail from the SEC.
Yep.
It's that simple, guys. It's time to shut the hell up, to be honest.
And I think he made a good point too. He said, we're going to be fine. He thought that they had enough quality teams to make this appropriate. And I think, they had – look at the SEC last year, Brad, in the 2004 season, 25 season. 14 of the league's 16 teams were selected to the tournament. Florida went on to win the title.
Yeah.
Auburn was in the Final Four. Tennessee was in the Elite 8. Kentucky made the Sweet 16. It was a really good year for SEC basketball. And it's going to be good again this year. It's going to be even loaded again this year with the class that Pope's got coming in. Florida's got coming in. Auburn's got another class coming in. Yep. Alabama's going to be good again. It's just going to be and I know you don't want me to say it, Calipari's going to have a good team again this year with the freshmen. So, I mean, hey, it's going to be a fun conference yet again. The football is going to be fun. So let's dig in and talk about what LSU had to say today.
Yep. So that's our next. We're going to get into LSU for a little bit here, John. The first one to the podium today was LSU and Brian Kelly. All of these teams do have 3 athletes with them. Feel free to mention those if you want to. But, Brian Kelly, he was kind of impressive today. I mean, he come out and he was talking about basically to start with, he was talking about 2 things that really aren't related to football. He was talking about the fan base and just how great the LSU fan base is, that they sell 75,000 season tickets, that they have the loudest stadium in the world, in college football. And he was talking about his appreciation for the LSU fans. And then he was talking about their graduation rate and that they graduated 100%. And that's something different that he brought from Notre Dame to LSU. It was the first time for that, I think.
Yeah, he brought up some interesting points. I think my biggest question is with LSU, Brad, is they got a lot of expectations on them this year. They got Nussmeier back. They lost 4 offensive linemen, which we'll kind of gain on that later in the show. But they lost 4 linemen to the NFL. How are they going to respond? Defensively, they're going to be pretty good as well. This is
they have a defensive coordinator that's coming back in his second year. After letting Matt House go.
The Matt House experiment was.
Well, this is the second year of the new guy, and he did make some strides last year, and we are going to get to the defensive side of this. But Brian Kelly, he addressed things in his talk today, John, about the 0-3 record. I thought
that's the biggest thing for me.
I thought he done 0-3 in openers, season openers. I thought he addressed a lot of good things, and I thought he spoke really well today.
Yeah, I did too. And I think, last year they lost to USC early in the year, which pretty much prevented them from really contending for the playoff.
Yeah.
There's some things that need to change. They have, like I said, they got a lot of expectations coming in. They get Nussmeier. And I'm going to be honest, the game against Clemson is huge.
We're going to talk about all of that. They're
going up against.
We're going to move on. We're going to move on to our next topic because it's part of some of this. So,
and I'll be honest with you, Brad. Those two quarterbacks might be the best in the country this year. I'm going head to head right out of the gate. Nussmeier and Klubnik.
All right. Speaking of Nussmeier, he is one of our next topics. He was there today. He sounded really, really confident in his ability. He is a fifth-year senior. This is going to be his second year as a starter, and I don't think many people know this or recognize this from last year. But Nussmeier threw over 4,000 yards last year for LSU.
He did. Yep.
What's your expectations? Is he the top quarterback in the SEC preseason?
I would put Lenore Sailors in front of him.
But we'll talk about him a little later.
We'll get to him.
But no kidding. I mean, there are a couple of other names, but Nussmeier is going to be right there.
I think what's going to be key for LSU is Chris Hilton Jr. I think, he was in some rough spots last year. He went through some things. There's a lot of adversity. I think his growth is going to get better. I think he's poised for an outstanding year. He racked up, I think, 198 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games of last year. I think he's a big threat for Nussmeier, which I will bring up the point. They did lose one of their wide receivers that was going to the NFL. He passed away this past summer. I was going to bring that up. I didn't know if he was going to bring that up, but Lacey, that's been a big hit to LSU and their community. I think they're going to be playing with a heavy heart this season for him. He was a really standout player. Was going to the NFL, had some things happen. Got in a car accident, I believe, was it, Brad? And he passed away. Yes. And he passed away. So LSU's playing with a heavy heart. There's a lot of expectations coming on for this team this year. I love Brian Kelly, but I think the main thing is he's got to win the Clemson game, which is going to be tough because Cade Klubnik comes back. He's probably one of the top.
Let me go through the topics here before we dive.
Well, I was just kind of bringing up my points, but go ahead.
Yeah, but let me go through the topics here before we dive into that one. With Nussmeier here, I've got to say, I think he definitely should be a top 2 or 3 quarterback in this league this coming year as a fifth-year senior coming off 4,000 yards from last year. Offense has not been the issue for LSU, and since Brian Kelly's been there, they have had a stellar offense every single year. And Nussmeier, if you go back and look at the tapes, he was pretty impressive last year. And I think you're going to see that second year rise a little bit with him, second year starter rise with him a little bit this coming year. And don't be surprised if Nussmeier's not a top 2 quarterback in the SEC.
Well, and I'll say this too. I kind of liked how he brought up, sometimes, you can get caught in the moment in these media days and, think about other things besides yourself. And you sometimes can get on yourself so much. But he was complimenting the wide receiver room today, talking about Nick Anderson. They added some, transfers
Barry
from
Brown. They got Barry Brown from Kentucky.
From Kentucky. They also brought back Aaron Anderson. He mentioned that, he didn't think they had a receiver that run over a 4.4, and he said, it makes my job a little bit easier to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So he's going to have some weapons at his disposal, this season. And I think he's going to have to, come up big because he's got a lot of expectations on him, Brett.
He does. All right, we're going to move to another topic here for LSU defense. I'm going to be honest with you, John. 2 years ago, they had a championship offense. They just had a terrible defense when Jaden Daniels was there.
Their defense couldn't get off the field.
Since Brian Kelly has been there, their defense has struggled. I said they're in the second year with their new coordinator. The Weeks brothers and Harold Perkins, a name that we talked about 2 or 3 years ago. He was injured last year, did not play for the most part. He may have played a game or two early, but pretty much did not play. He blew out a knee. He is back and ready to go.
Are they actually
LSU linebackers? Look for the LSU linebackers to be the leaders on this team and this group.
Is LSU actually going to use him right?
I don't know. But the name Harold Perkins, we've talked about him for years on this show.
Well, the reason I say use him right, they had him plumb out of position last year.
They have.
And Harold Perkins is not on the edge. He's more of a side-to-side, going down the sideline type player. And they had him all over the place last year, Brad. And
that was the year before. That was the year before.
That was the year before, yeah. The year before. But he did have a bounce-back year last year, I thought.
No. Last year he was out.
Last year was out.
He blew out his knee.
It was the year before last is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
He did have a nice, pretty good season that year, but they had him plumb out of position and had him.
Yeah, they have had him out of position. We talked about that here on the show.
It was really bad. Like Harold Perkins.
Whit Weeks, number 40 linebacker. He's going to be one of the better linebackers in the country. And then you got Harold Perkins. This linebacker crew could be a key for this LSU defense to finally find some footing and play some championship defense.
Yeah, and like you said, they start right out with Clemson, which is going to be their number one priority right out of the gate.
Yep, and that is our next topic, to be honest with you here. And Brian Kelly said this himself in his opening statement today, that they are putting an emphasis on the first game that they have had, that they're 0-3, that he knows they're 0-3, that they're putting everything they have into this game. However, John, going into the other Death Valley and playing Clemson at home is no easy task.
No,
this is not going to be an early season neutral site game. This is a true road game going to Clemson to open the season.
It's tough. Like I said, LSU has some big expectations to win a title.
You're going to have to go against that defense that we were just talking about is going to be tested early because Klubnik is going to absolutely test their will, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and this will be an improved Clemson team too.
They're projected to be a top 3 to 5 defensive team in the country. Clemson is.
And I'll be honest with you, kind of to bounce back off what you said about their defense, I think, Blake Baker is a really good fit scheme for that defense. I think what he's going to do is he's going to, bring some pressure with Perkins and Weeks, and this could be a really good team. Now, Whether they beat Clemson or not, that's we don't know that yet.
That's a tall order, man.
That's a tall order right out of the gate. But you gotta at least stay competitive in this game, which I think they will. A loss is not really going to hurt them because now 2 losses pretty much grant you a chance to play for the title. 3, you're pretty much gone, unless a lot of mix-up happens. A lot of teams fall out, and a lot of teams kind of hit and miss. But I think the offense is key here, and I think the offensive line is going to be revamped. You talked about the offensive line. They lost 4 starters to the NFL. It's been a really long offseason for college football, and I'm glad we're back talking about it. What will LSU's offensive line look like? That's the question. They got, I think, DJ Chester's at center. Cohen Eccles, I think they got him at left and right guard. I think Tyree Adams is receiving snaps at both tackle positions. They've added some transfers. Braylon Moore, Josh Thompson from Northwestern. So they're going to have some new faces in there, but I think they're going to be good. I think the run game is going to be good as well.
What do you think they're going to look like at Clemson against Dabo, against that crowd? I mean, where do you see this opening game? This is the biggest opening game for week 1 on the schedule.
Man, if this was at Death Valley, LSU, I would kind of, or like a.
It is at Death Valley, but Death Valley Clemson.
It's Death Valley Clemson. But if this was at Death Valley LSU, or if this was like a neutral type game, I would say LSU has the opportunity to go in there and win. But this is.
So is Brian Kelly going to go 0-4 in openers at LSU?
It's quite a possibility. I mean, it's.
And I'm going to even take this further. That's Brian Kelly's record, okay? At the SEC Media Days today, LSU has not opened the season with a win since Joe Burrow in 2019.
That's hard to believe.
What? That's crazy. Is it not?
That's a little hard to believe. But
the last time they
won Joe Burrow, though, they've not
with Joe Burrow in 2019.
Well, I mean, since Joe Burrow, they haven't really been at LSU. Let's be honest. They beat Alabama once during that time.
I mean, Kelly was 10-3, 10-3, and 9-4. That's what Kelly's been.
I mean, LSU is expected every year to go to a national championship, Brad. Let's just be honest. It's a football school.
Yeah,
they're expected to be in the running every single year in baseball.
And gymnastics.
So, like I said, this is a big expectation season for them. And how will they respond? And right out of the gate, we're going to find out real quick.
All right, you've kind of alluded this a couple of times, but I'm going to go ahead and hit my topic here. So they had 4 offensive linemen drafted in the NFL, including the number 4 Campbell, Will Campbell, I think was his name, the number 4 pick in the draft. And they had an absolute stellar offensive line. Everybody knows that, especially in the SEC, that your offensive line will almost dictate your entire team. If your offensive line struggles, most times your team is going to struggle. That's just plain and simple, especially big boy physical football, fast, like the SEC is. My question to you is, will LSU take a step back because of their offensive line? Even though the expectations are that this LSU team could contend for an SEC title, will the offensive line cause them to take a step back?
I think you can. I mean, they're going through a rotation of guys. Like I said, they added some transfer guys. It's just going to take a blend of this talent and newcomers kind of working themselves in. Now I think they'll do that through the remainder of this offseason to find the right combination and what they need to do to figure that out. But you better figure it out quick, because Clemson's front four is no joke. Clemson, they're not no patty cake. I just tell you up front. Dabo's built a defensive machine there with, Venables being there before, now at Oklahoma. That's a defensive factory when it comes to defense. And
especially defensive line.
You don't want to throw a bunch of young guys into a situation like Death Valley with very little, playing time, very little starts. You want to get them kind of acclimated to the environment, kind of like I always say with Stoops and them, what they do, they kind of bring it to them. They bring the noise and they turn the music on at the practice facility, kind of emulate the game in a way. Yep. But it's not going to emulate what the crowd's really going to be at Death Valley. I mean, but you kind of get those guys prepared for a situation like that. And I think first game's going to be tough for that offensive line, but how they respond over the course of the season.
That for sure. In this first game against Clemson, I think you may see some offensive line struggles against a top defense like Clemson in this first game. I think that may be one of the key points of why they might go 0-4 in season openers under Kelly, is simply the offensive line play. Now, if they can come in there and protect Nussmeier in that first game against Clemson, maybe they don't take a step back.
No, maybe they figure it out and they have a season that Kelly and LSU wants to have, and they need to have that, because a lot of LSU, from the LSU fans that I've talked to, a lot of them are growing a little bit weary of the last couple of years. And granted, I understand, Joe Burrow's not walking through that door today. Him and, the group that they had, that was a special group. But they can still be special with what they have and the offensive talent that they're going to have, especially at wide receiver, quarterback, especially on defense. I said it, they added some guys on the edge that's going to really be crucial to their team. They added Patrick Payton from Florida State. They got Jack Pyburn from Florida. They added Jamari Butler from, I think it was Nebraska. Was it Nebraska? I think it was Nebraska. Then they had Relaford. That's 4 weapons too deep at the depth chart at edge. So LSU is, if their offense can't stand up, I think their defense is going to have a bounce-back season, and I think they'll get it together on the defense.
Well, they do have championship, and I'm talking SEC championship. Brian Kelly said it a bunch today, mentioned SEC championship. That's their goals, is SEC championship, because if you can be SEC champion in college football, you're going to make the college football playoff and have a chance.
You're going to be there.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to move on to South Carolina. South Carolina was next with Shane Beamer. John? Beamer was actually kind of cool today. And as much as that guy has rubbed me the wrong way for the last 3 years, I'm just going to be honest with you. It took me a second. I was kind of taken back by it. I was like, man, he's not being a smartass. He's not being a smart aleck. He's not having that smugness that, that he has on game days, especially towards Kentucky.
Something that really piqued my interest for this was when he brought up the Virginia Tech matchup. He was talking about where his dad coached.
And that is one of our topics.
He was talking about how his dad wasn't coaching there no more, and how Brent Pry was a grad assistant when he was a player there.
Yeah.
He was talking about how it was a really special place for him. I think that's a really good matchup to start the year.
Yeah.
To kind of bring
We'll dig into it.
The game between the game. I think, his dad coaching there for so many years, and now he gets to go there and play. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, we'll dig into it. That is one of my topics a little further down the list. But, I mean, with Shane today, man, I was kind of taken back that he actually was a cool, decent guy, made some jokes on set.
He's a little corny sometimes. I mean, that's just
a little bit, but I mean,
he was.
I thought he handled himself really well today, to be honest with you. And if he is that way in recruiting and stuff, I can kind of see why the recruiting is picked up for South Carolina. They have made some strides. Shane's in his 5th year. And I found out today he has 29 wins in 4 years. He's in his 5th year. That is one more than a guy by the name of Steve Spurrier.
This is actually –
maybe y'all heard him.
This is actually another team that has really high expectations.
They do.
Like I said, they returned Sellers, who I think, to me, is the best quarterback in the SEC, maybe one in the country. He's, he had SEC Freshman of the Year accolades.
I'm going to go ahead and switch it over because that's my next topic.
He had 18 touchdowns last year. South Carolina beat Tennessee. What was it, a year ago? A year or two ago?
Shane Sellers. Lenore Sellers.
Sellers, yeah. So there's a lot of expectations with South Carolina as well.
Yeah, so just like with LSU, South Carolina has a second-year starter. There's not very many of them in the SEC, but South Carolina has a second-year starter who done really, really well last year, over 2,800 yards passing, about 550-some rushing from
what's impressive?
position.
You know what's impressive about that South Carolina team last year? They closed the year out with 5 consecutive wins. They only lost 2 games by a total of 5 points against LSU and Alabama.
Yep.
And they had a
couple of one-score games kept them from they finished 9-4. One more win, and they might have been able to get in the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, the success had a lot to do with Sellers. And he's the backbone of this team. Their chances of reaching the college football playoff, like you said, they missed out last year. They got a chance this year to kind of prove themselves.
And you're saying you think Sellers can be the top quarterback in the SEC?
I think he can.
I'm going to give you some names. We're not going to talk about them yet, but you got Arch Manning. You've got there's one Lagway, DJ Lagway.
I just think where Sellers he's had a lot more opportunities.
He has. He's got a full year under his belt.
He's got a full year, and I think Arch is going to see some up and downs. I think Arch is going to be great. I think DJ Lagway is probably one of the most prolific dual threats.
DJ Lagway started 7 games last year for Florida, was 6-1, by the way, as a starter.
Yeah, he was good. There's a lot of great quarterbacks in this SEC, and I'll give my opinion Thursday when we talk about Kentucky about why I think the SEC analysts are crazy for thinking that Zach Calzada is going to be 15th in the league or 16th in the league.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. That's definitely.
I'm going to bring something. I'm going to bring something up about that. So
yeah,
be on the lookout for that.
But Lenore Sellers was there today. He was another one that was there. Spoke really well. I got to see him, with some questions, and I thought him and Nussmeier both handled themselves really well today at SEC Media Days. There is a lot, and I mean a lot of media. It is kind of a pressure situation to say the right things, to respond the right way. And there is some pressure on these kids when they go to SEC.
And I'm going to say, too, that their schedule is going to be crucial because, they play LSU, I think.
The first 5 games is what's going to be crucial.
It's at LSU. They play Oklahoma at home. They play Alabama at home. They play Ole Miss on the road, and they play Texas A&M away. So they're going to have to at least split one of those 4 or 5. They're if they want to have a shot at making a run for the playoff, like you said.
Yep. All right. So my next topic with South Carolina is defense. Now, their defense, the reason why I'm bringing up their defense is if you watch the NFL draft in April, South Carolina's defense loaded up with NFL draft picks. Their 3 of their top 4 defensive line, their linebackers, they loaded up out of draft picks out of the NFL. John, they have one full-time starter back.
Dylan Stewart.
From that defense. Dylan Stewart, who was a freshman.
He's a great.
Played really well when he had pressure from the other side and from the middle coming too. My question to you is this. Will South Carolina, I know a lot of expectations are that South Carolina is going to make a jump forward and possibly contend for a college football playoff. My question is this. The defense is kind of what carried them last year. It wasn't just saying Manoa Sellers. It was their defense mainly that created a lot of havoc, made a lot of sacks. Will this team take a step back because their defense doesn't have all those key guys?
It's going to be tough. You got to like you said, you got to replace 5 NFL picks. Demetrius Knight was one of those. Kyle Kennard.
Kennard was a big one.
Eamon Worry was one. TJ Sanders was one. It's a very, very young defense. They have some size, like Beamer mentioned today. He said we're athletic, speed, but you had guys like Kennard and Worry who led the SEC with 11.5 sacks and won the Bronco Nagurski Award. They lost Sanders and Knight, Tonka Hemingway, Donald Fortune, Alex Huntley. They lost quite a bit.
They did. That's what I'm telling you. I know everybody's expecting them because of Sellers and that offense to kind of make a rise. But, man, replacing what they lost on defense is going to be tough, I think.
Now I will say, they bring
the
DQ
experience
Smith.
that they lost.
They bring DQ Smith back. Jalen Kilgore's back. Judge Collier. Then they added a few guys in the portal. They added Jalen Brown, Xavion Hardy. I think they was 4-star guys. So it'll be interesting to see how the defense responds. I think this offense is the one to watch for them. But I think, their defense, I think, takes a little step back from a year ago just because of all the talent that they lost. But I will say –
an absolute ton of talent.
I will say Dylan Stewart is an absolute house.
Absolutely, especially with Kennard on the other side. Stewart looked excellent. But
he did.
If they don't have the NFL talent on the other side and in the back line like they did last year, and everybody's getting to focus on Dylan Stewart, that could make a big difference.
Could. It really could.
All right, so this is the topic here with South Carolina.
Yeah,
they get to host Virginia Tech week 1. It's kind of an intriguing matchup here because
it's actually
Shane Beamer's
it's actually at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's a neutral game. Yeah,
it's a neutral site game.
Yeah.
All right. But it's not. I know it's not at Virginia Tech.
No, it's not at Virginia Tech. No,
but it's a neutral site game here. But here's the deal, and here's why this is something that's an intriguing game. Shane's dad, Frank Beamer, was the longtime Virginia Tech coach. That is where Shane got his start as a coach.
29 years. 29 years. Beamer was there.
Yeah.
Beamer Ball. I called him Beamer. That's where the nickname Beamer Ball came from.
It was. He is a legend at Virginia Tech. Absolute legend. Brought in guys like Michael Vick. A lot of other names as well. But everybody will know the name Michael Vick. And, you know, it's a place that Beamer grew up, that Shane Beamer grew up.
Yep.
Underneath when his dad Frank was the coach. I mean, he grew up there. Let's be honest. So Virginia Tech has a special place for the entire Beamer family. And this is going to be one of those weird games because of this.
And I think too, you know, Virginia Tech's kind of in that spot too now where, you know, they've had some rocky seasons and they're trying to kind of get back on the totem pole here. And you know, I think it's a big game for both, if we're being honest.
It is. And I can see this game being emotional because Frank has been right beside. He's there every time, every game for Shane. Now at South Carolina, it's going to be interesting. Is he going to show up in South Carolina gear?
Yeah,
for this game, like that's just it's going to be so odd if he does. Like
it's going to be an odd situation, but
yeah.
No.
But anyways, it's a very interesting game, week 1. My last South Carolina topic is, John, can they build from their 9-4 season last year?
I think they can, but their schedule is like I said a few minutes ago. You know, you got LSU on the road, you got Oklahoma at home, which they tend to play good at home. You know, they play Alabama I think it's at A&M. They're going to have to win at least 2 of those, at least steal one of those games, if they want to have a shot at contending for a opportunity to play for a playoff.
For sure. You know, my biggest concern, and I just said it in the topic before this, for this South Carolina team, is their defense. It's not because I think their defense is just not going to have any talent. I think in this league, experience matters. Cohesiveness matters. It's not easy having to bring in a bunch of guys. It's not easy not having the experience. If South Carolina does not hold up to a 9-4 or better record, I think it will be because of their defense.
Yeah, I do. I do as well.
All right, John, we're going to move on to Ole Miss. Ole Miss came to the podium today with Lane Kiffin as the head coach. This is his 6th year at Ole Miss. He is now tied for the 4th longest tenured coach in the SEC with 6 years. him and Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri are tied.
There were some interesting things that
there was. I want to get to something real quick with Lane. So Lane was kind of emotional today when he come to the podium. He's talking about, I mean, he didn't tear up or nothing, but he talked about family. He talked about what Oxford has meant to him. He talked about the phases that he's went through at Oxford with family, his kids coming after divorce and wanting to be with him, and the family part, his family side of it. Last year, before SEC football media days, he lost his father, Monty Kiffin, longtime coach that everybody pretty much knows about. But this summer, he lost his mother as well.
Yeah.
And he talked about just how important Oxford has been to him and to his family and his recovery. His brother is there with his, kids and everything as well.
And they kind of brought up Saban a little bit, I think, in a little session where asking him about if Saban would return to coaching, and
they did that.
Did he catch more fish than Hugh Freeze? And like there's a lot of good stuff that they asked Lane today.
The bigger fish. Yeah. You got to talk about the bigger fish, right?
Yeah.
But I was really kind of taken back with Lane. He seems to have some real ties to Oxford. I know that there's all this talk with Auburn fans. If Hugh Freeze don't work out, go get Lane, go get Lane, go get Kiffin. I know there's all this talk, but from what I seen today, Lane Kiffin is really I saw it last year after his dad died. And then today he really cemented it. Like he's really grown up. He's changed. I think that he is truly indebted to Oxford, Mississippi. And I'm going to be honest with you, John. I think it's going to take a lion's share offer to get him out of there. What do you think?
Nowadays, money talks, and
I don't know.
But like I said, like you said, the way he talked today, he seemed different to me.
He did.
He just seemed like a different Lane, and maybe that's just me, but he just seemed more composed.
Well,
and
when your mom dies, when your mother dies, it takes something from you. I can tell you that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I say the same thing. I mean, it's tough to lose family and tough to go through situations like that, and and that's why I kind of bring up this next point. With Ole Miss, they're going through a massive change, Brad.
They are. We're going to dive into that.
Under center.
We're going to dive into that. That's my next topic, man. Replacing Jackson Dart.
Yeah, that's
Austin Simmons.
That's the biggest challenge. Like, Simmons, I think he got in 9 games last year, but they was mostly when games were in doubt.
Yeah.
But he did, I believe, lead 1 touchdown drive against Georgia when Dart got briefly hurt. He was not a full-time football player until this year.
And Dart
Dart
had been there 3 years as the starter.
Yeah. And he was playing baseball with Ole Miss in the spring before transitioning to football full time. So it's going to take some time for Austin Simmons to figure things out. But I just don't see Ole Miss doing what they did last year, though. Jackson Dart is a lot to replace, Brad. That's a lot to.
I think he has all the records. Like he has most touchdowns, he has most yards, he has most wins. He has, in Ole Miss history. And people look. If I know the Mannings were there and everything else, but I'm telling you, Jackson Dart in his 3 seasons has all the records just about.
Special. Yeah, he had a special career at Ole Miss. And I think, he was 21-5 the last 2 years of Jackson Dart under center. Now you're putting it in the hands of a redshirt sophomore. It's going to be tough.
There's going to be some growing pains.
There's going to be.
In Oxford, I believe.
And I will say this, they play right out of the gate on the road. Kentucky is a trap game for them. That's a road game. Right out of the gate, they
week 2, I believe.
I think it's week 2. It's on ABC 3:30. It's a primetime game. That's going to be a tough away game for which Kentucky's kind of. We'll talk about Kentucky Thursday, but they've kind of revamped their whole system as well. Stoops went through a whole revamp of the offense, the defense. There's a whole revamp of basically everybody in the SEC this year. Everybody's having to replace certain guys. So I think his first true test, Simmons, is going to be on the road against Kentucky to find out what he's made of.
That's true.
And see where he's at. And how he progresses on down the line.
That's 100% true. I agree with that. It's going to be a tough – I think there's going to be some ups and downs. Whoops. I skipped one.
That's the biggest question that I've had.
This one right here, Lane has won 10 or more games 3 of the last 4 years at Ole Miss. It's the best run as far as a 4-year run in Ole Miss history. However, having said all of that, they did have some bigger expectations in college football playoff expectations.
Now, I will give them – they beat Georgia last year, but Georgia was not having the Georgia year that, Beck had a historically not great year.
The thing that they haven't been able to do is he wasn't able to beat Saban. He lost to DeBoer last year. There's the one big game. Now, like you said, they did beat Georgia last year, but they usually have one big game that they can't get over the hump, and they usually have one letdown.
It's usually Alabama a lot of times for Kiffin.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see what Ole Miss does this year. And some of the new faces, the new quarterback, their defense where they lost all the NFL picks, how they respond in that regard.
That is another topic that I have here for Ole Miss is, they had their most NFL draft picks in program history.
Yeah, they had a good draft. Where they progress from there is still a big question mark. I think Ole Miss is going to have a really good year. I do. But
when it comes down to it, John, if you count replacing the quarterback, replacing some really good Trey Harris and really good wide receivers, replacing all they lost on defense,
there's going to be some growing pains.
There's a lot on this Ole Miss team. I know people are predicting them in the top 15 or top 20. I don't know. Sometimes I want to look at this team and be like, whoa, slow your roll a little bit. I'm not sure about Ole Miss just yet. I love Lane Kiffin, and I'm sure he's went out. He had a top 5 transfer portal class. I'm sure he's going to have some replacements, but are they going to be cohesive? Are they going to come together as a team?
That's the biggest question mark, I think. Harrison Wallace is one of their top guys, dribbling. I think they get Caden Lee back. He's a junior. Watkins, he's a freshman. They do lose Jordan Watkins from last year. That was another big piece to their team. Now, I will say their running back room looks pretty good, with Diggs and Thomas and Lacey. That might be a really good running back room. But my question is their defense. Like, where are they going to go? They lost some guys. They got to kind of plug and hold some other guys. Where are they going to go from the defensive aspect of it? Now, their offense can score at will. The way he runs his offense, I love the way Lane kind of pushes it to be a up and down tempo.
Yeah.
But with a new quarterback installed, you're going to have to give this kid time to kind of adapt to that, because this will be his first full year playing, starting.
Which leads me to my last question with Ole Miss real quick. While you're on this topic, will Lane be able to keep the Rebels in college football playoff contention?
I mean, there's going to, like you said, there's going to be some hits and misses, and they're going to have to figure out, early in the season.
2 to 3 losses is all you can have. Can this Ole Miss team do that?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, if you look at their schedule, is not really that bad. It's just there's a few games in there where they could hit some bumps. They play at Kentucky, play home against Arkansas. They play a really good Tulane team with John Sumrall at home. That could be a
trap game at home.
I mean, they LSU at home. They got a non-con game with Washington State at home, which is kind of neat. We never see that really late in the year, late in October, which is kind of neat.
That was a replacement game after Wake Forest dropped them last year.
Wake Forest dropped them, and then they play at Georgia, which Georgia will be wanting some revenge from a year ago, in which Georgia will be much improved as well. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress. And they get 9 home games, which is kind of rare.
Yeah, really rare.
And so let's see what they do. I'm excited about this team. Hopefully the quarterback play can progress as the season goes.
All right, we're going to move on to Clark Lea and Vanderbilt. Clark Lea speaks really well when he talks. He is a Vanderbilt graduate. He is a smart guy. But, John, I'm fixing to say something that maybe I shouldn't say, but it's true. He speaks intelligently and all of that, but, man, he's kind of boring when he talks. I'm just being dead up straight with you guys.
Well, and Diego Pavia mentioned something today. It kind of, I laughed, but it kind of, I mean, I like his confidence. He was talking about, being back at Vanderbilt, and he was talking about how 7-6 wasn't good enough and how he wanted to come back to win a national championship. Like, I get what you're wanting to do, young man, but at Vanderbilt,
we're fixing to talk about him in a second for sure, Pavia. But Lee, like, seriously, man, do you not, like, when I see him speak, it makes me wonder, how do these guys get up to play for this guy? He doesn't seem like he has any rah-rah, any fire, he's just kind of monotoned. He's like,
it's a little different,
Like, it's hard for me to. He seems like he is a college professor, not a football coach.
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah.
Like, how do you get up to play? I don't know, man. He's smart as I mean, really smart, really intelligent, and knows what he's talking about. But he's just not a rah-rah guy. And I don't know how you – I mean, they did last year for sure, but I don't know how you get up to play for it is all I'm saying. All right, John, we're going to dig into Diego Pavia. We have been saying this guy's name for 3 years on this show. First at New Mexico State, yeah. And first there, and now he is back again, thanks to the court system, by the way.
Yep.
He is back again at Vandy to be a nuisance once again. And that he is. He's dangerous.
He's a good player.
He's a good player. He's dangerous. He will never quit. If you give him 10 seconds, he thinks he's going to come back to beat you.
Yep.
That's his mentality.
I find this funny. We do we've had our podcast for what, 4 or 5 years?
This is our 4th season.
He has beaten all 3 of our teams. Auburn, Kentucky. No, he didn't beat Ole Miss. I was thinking of Jason Harrison. He did beat Auburn, and he beat Kentucky.
He beat Auburn twice.
He beat Alabama last year in an upset win.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of bring it out to partly what he said today. He said, he was talking about what it takes to play in January, and he was talking about Vanderbilt beat Alabama.
They got some high expectations, John.
And he said, I believe Vanderbilt can take the next step. He said,
they were talking about playing for the championship of the SEC.
I get it.
In Atlanta.
A lot of confidence there, but
they were talking about playing meaningful games in January. That means if you go to the SEC championship game, that means they have college football playoff expectations. Like, they're really, really psyching this up for this team, I think. And despite all that, I still didn't think Clark Lea sounded like a rah-rah guy. But
no, he wouldn't last year.
But they are really, hyping this up. That's what Pavia come back for. John, there is another guy that Pavia throws to that possibly could have been a first-round NFL draft pick, and he chose to come back.
Eli Stowers, yeah.
Eli Stowers.
Yeah, he's probably one of the best tight ends in the SEC, and
he is.
And he's Vanderbilt's got pieces there, I think. But going from a bowl game to a national championship, to me, is just a little bit of a crazy talk,
Yeah.
But
man, this Stowers guy is kind of Pavia's outlet, and they move him. He plays tight end. He's listed as tight end, but they move him all over the place.
They bring Sherrill back too, by the way. Sherrill returns next year.
Yeah.
He was one of their top guys. He's a junior.
Yeah.
And they bring back Cedric Alexander, the running back, which that's a big key to their running back.
It is. They have a great offense.
There's some pieces there that they can make some noise and win maybe 5, 6, 7 games.
They won 7 last year.
And their defense.
Including a bowl game. They beat a pretty good Georgia Tech team in the bowl.
And their defense is bringing back some guys. I really like their Fontenette, Randon Fontenette. He's one of their main guys in the secondary room. I think he's linebacker. He might be in the middle, star linebacker, maybe. I can't remember, but he was one of their star defensive guys last year.
On defense. Let me ask you about Stowers here. Do you think he could be a first-round draft pick? That tight end spot?
Ask Jason Witten. Ask Jason Witten. Ask Tony Gonzalez. Like, tight ends are hardly even recognizable anymore, but there's still a few out there.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce's one. Trying to think. Brock Bowers.
Yeah. Bowers.
It's very rare to find a good tight end anymore, but there's some still out there, and I think Stowers is one of those that could make some noise in the NFL next year, especially to be drafted pretty high.
So does Pavia and Stowers, do they build from last year?
I think they do.
Because they made some noise last year. Beat the number one team in the country.
I think their schedule is going to have a lot to do with that, though.
Second game of the year, they play Virginia Tech, the same team South Carolina plays.
Then they play South Carolina on the road, right?
Yeah,
it's tough, but then they get kind of a break.
They're playing a 3-game round robin between Virginia Tech, Vanderbilt, and South Carolina. The first 3 games.
Well, they start out with Charleston Southern, and then they play Georgia State and Utah State mixed in between that. But I think it'll be interesting to see how, there's some winnable games there. Charleston Southern, Georgia State, Utah State, Missouri, Vanderbilt, or Texas. Well, Texas ain't one. Auburn. They play at home against Auburn, and then they play Kentucky at home. So there's some winnable games there for them to get back to kind of build on what they did last year.
Okay.
And what's crazy to me is they played Texas about as good as anybody.
It was a 3-point game.
Yeah.
Like,
not for some mistakes, they would have won that game.
Exactly. Like, I'm serious. This team they had 4 one-possession games that they lost. 4. I mean, unbelievable. And they went 7-6. So you get 2 of those. That's 9 wins for this Vanderbilt team last year. That's how close they were. Now I got the crazy question of the night.
Nah, it ain't happening.
Because this was their expectations tonight. I had to put this in here. Does Vanderbilt actually have college football playoff potential?
No.
Could this offense, could a miracle in the Music City Miracle actually happen?
I mean, it's always possible, but I mean, it's good to kind of
Music City Miracle.
It's good to reach high. It's good to reach high and have some goals, but I think what they need to improve on is continuing to do like they did with Franklin. Build on each season and win what? What they win last year? Was it 8 games, 7 games?
7. Vandy, they went 7-6.
Maybe win an extra game that you didn't win last year.
Yeah.
And kind of build on that and get to a bit bigger bowl. I think Vandy is a great institution.
No idea, Caden. He said something about another account. I'm not sure.
I don't know. What's he mean double dipping?
I think he was on some kind of backup account or something. Clyde was. I have no idea. Not a clue, Caden. Not sure.
I have no clue. I have no clue, Caden. But I kind of wanted to bring up something before we go, Brad. They did mention that a Netflix series was getting ready to happen for SEC football, which I think was pretty neat.
It's going to be big time.
It's going to be big time. A lot of things are happening this week.
There's one other thing that we kind of mentioned at the beginning of this, but I wanted to ask you about it. Greg McElroy made a huge statement today that he thought people in the know for Saban thinks that he's not done coaching football. It really didn't come from Lane Kiffin was asked about it, but it came from Greg McElroy this morning. Do you think that Nick Saban is done coaching football?
I think yes, for now at least. I think he's enjoying his time on the ESPN College Game Day stuff. Like, did you see him last year when there was times where what's the guy's name that has the radio show? The punter
Pat
from the Colts, Pat McAfee, when he would
Yeah.
take his shirt off and Saban would just sit like
he would look at him like, man, you're crazy.
He would look at him like, dang, man, what's going on? But I think he's enjoying the spotlight with the College Game Day. I think he's enjoying that and whatnot. And by the way, Lee Corso will be retiring this year. I don't know if everybody knew that.
Week 1 will be his last week.
Week 1 will be his last week. I kind of wanted to bring that up tonight. I'm kind of sad, but at the same time, the guy has went through some stuff. He's been sick.
He's 90, okay? At some point in time.
You know, you got to –
time gets the best of all of us.
Father Time happens, yeah. Tomorrow, we will be going over the teams. I will tell the teams.
Right here. I got them right there on the screen for you. Tomorrow
Auburn,
night.
Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. Probably 3 of the top teams in the SEC that are going to be vying.
It's a big day tomorrow, Tuesday. We got Auburn Tigers, Georgia Bulldogs, Tennessee Vols, and the Texas Longhorns tomorrow. It's
Kirby
we
Smart.
got Kirby Smart. We got Josh Heupel. We got Hugh Freeze. We got Steve Sarkisian. It's going to be a really, really fun night to talk football with you guys tomorrow night.
Just for those that are wondering, Kirby Smart will take the podium at 10:05 in the morning. At 12:15, it will be Hugh Freeze in Auburn. 1:30 will be Josh Heupel, and 3:15 will be Steve Sarkisian in Texas. So Jackson, by the way, Jackson Arnold's quarterback at Auburn. I just now realized that.
Yeah, he's at Auburn. Yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Which is crazy.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, who was at Oklahoma, now he's at Auburn. So that's going to be interesting. So all of this, we're going to have fun this week. If you are with us, go to Home Field Apparel. You can get all of these teams we're talking about. You can get licensed apparel, vintage licensed apparel from them. Use our code CSCast for a 15% discount if you are a first-time buyer. If not, you use one of their discount code or one of their sale codes, but still use ours to give us a little bit of credit. They have some cool retro logos and mascots and throwback items as well. We would appreciate that. We're on the Real Fresh channel on YouTube, and tune in to Stadium Rant. That was at the beginning of the show. There was a lot of shows. We're proud to be a part of Stadium Rant. They have a large array of shows and content for you guys covering all different kinds of sports, pro, fantasy, wrestling, you name it. They have it. Go check them out. We appreciate them, and we appreciate Howie from the Real Fresh channel.
And Big Luke.
Howie and Luke. Yep, absolutely.
Big Luke.
Yeah, so we want to give them a shout out as well.
I will.
Check out all of our Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and check out.
I will forgive Howie for being a Steelers fan because he's got one of your players, Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah. So
he went to,
with that
Howie wasn't too happy about that, by the way.
yeah, I know. I thought it's kind of funny. I was teasing him about it, to be honest.
It's pretty good.
Yep. All right, guys. This has been day 1 of our summer series, SEC Football Media Days. We have enjoyed talking LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Vandy with you guys tonight. We appreciate you being with us. Catch us tomorrow night talking about Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. And we will see you for day 2. Y'all have a good night.
Have a good one.